It is winter 1943. Freezing rain turns the dirt roads of the Apennine Mountains into thick mud. A lone cyclist is pushing himself to the absolute limit. He is approaching a heavily armed military checkpoint. German soldiers and fascist police stand in the road, rifles in hand. His heart hammers against his ribs. He is not racing for a trophy. He knows that if these guards decide to inspect his heavy steel bicycle, he will be executed on the side of the road. Because hidden deep inside the hollow metal tubes of his bike frame are forged documents that will save hundreds of lives. This is the story of Gino Bartali, the greatest cyclist in the world and the ultimate Trojan horse. To understand the sheer insanity of this mission, you have to understand who Gino Bartali was. In 1938, he was the undisputed king of the mountains. He had crushed the Tour de France. He was the biggest sports icon in Italy. His face was plastered across every newspaper, cafe, and velodrome in the country. But the fascist dictatorship of Benito Mussolini wanted to use his victories as propaganda. Bartali, a quiet and deeply religious man, refused to dedicate his wins to the regime. He just wanted a race, but the world had other plans. By September 1943, the velodromes went silent. Italy was torn apart by World War II. The streets of Florence, Bartali's home, turned into a hunting ground. Secret police began rounding up Jewish families, political dissidents, and anyone without the right identity papers. A desperate underground resistance formed. Known as the Assisi Network, they set up secret printing presses in church basements to forge passports and identity cards. But they faced an impossible wall. How do you transport highly illegal documents across hundreds of kilometers of militarized roads? Trains were searched. Cars were confiscated. They needed a courier who could move freely. Someone whose physical endurance was superhuman and whose face was so famous, the guards would be starstruck rather than suspicious. The Archbishop of Florence summoned Bartali and asked him to risk his life for strangers. Bartali accepted immediately, and the mechanism they devised was pure mechanical brilliance. Bartali took his racing bicycle and removed the saddle and the seat post. He took the freshly forged, life-saving documents and rolled them up into tight, thin cylinders. He carefully slid these paper rolls deep into the hollow steel tubes of his bicycle frame. He packed the seat tube and the handlebars. Once the seat was bolted back into place, the evidence completely vanished. His bicycle looked like a standard, harmless racing machine, but it was carrying the fate of hundreds. Under the pretense that he was training to maintain his fitness for when the war ended, Bartali was given permission to ride on the open roads. But these weren't training rides. He was riding from Florence to Assisi, and sometimes as far as Genoa, covering up to 350 kilometers in a single day. He rode over the brutal, unpaved passes of the Apennine Mountains. His muscles screamed, his hands froze to the handlebars, and his lungs burned in the freezing air. And the psychological terror was worse than the physical pain. Every time a military convoy passed him, he had to suppress his panic. He had to wave, smile, and play the part of the arrogant sports star, knowing that a single slip-up would lead him to a firing squad. The checkpoints were the true test. Fascist police would regularly stop him, shining flashlights in his face, demanding to know why he was riding so far from home in the freezing cold. Bartali's defense was an incredible performance. He would act deeply offended. He would shout at the guards, "I am Gino Bartali, the pride of Italy." When they moved to touch his bicycle, he would feign absolute outrage. "Do not touch my bike. The geometry is perfectly calibrated for my weight. If you alter the seat, you ruin my career." Confused by his aggressive obsession with his bike and intimidated by his fame, the guards would back down. They let him pass, completely blind to the resistance network hidden beneath the saddle. But the regime was getting suspicious. In late 1944, Bartali's luck finally ran out. He was arrested. They took him to Villa Triste, a notorious interrogation and torture center in Florence run by the brutal Major Mario Carita. They pressed him. They threatened him. They demanded names. But Bartali, staring down the secret police, gave them absolutely nothing. Just silence. Knowing that executing Italy's greatest national hero without hard proof would spark a massive civilian uprising, Major Carita was forced to let him walk free. Bartali survived the war, and because of those rolled-up papers inside his bicycle frame, an estimated 800 Jewish men, women, and children survived too. When the war finally ended, Italy was a fractured, starving, and broken nation. But Bartali wasn't done. In 1948, at 34 years old, an age considered past the cyclist's prime, he returned to the Tour de France. Against all odds, he won the race by a massive margin. His victory sparked nationwide celebrations that literally stopped political riots in the streets, uniting Italy when it was on the brink of civil war. But the most remarkable part of this entire file is the defining characteristic of his heroism, the detail that makes him a legend. He never told anyone what he did during the war. He didn't write a memoir. He didn't sell his story. He didn't even tell his own wife the full extent of his missions. For decades, the world only knew him as a champion of the road. It wasn't until after his death in the year 2000 that historians finally uncovered the true scale of the Assisi Network. When his son once asked him why he kept such incredible bravery a secret for his entire life, Bartali's answer was profound. Good is done, but it is not said, and certain medals are pinned to your soul, not to your jacket. Gino Bartali wasn't just a champion of cycling. He was a champion of humanity. Until the next investigation, keep the files open. File closed. Next file. A chain. A paradox. And a machine that should not work at all. The Bike Files. Subscribe for the next case.